Hi, and welcome to the Rachel Hobby 2. Today we're going to be talking about first looks and what that means. A traditional first look and a modern first look, and which one might be right for you. Let's start with a modern first look because it may not be as common to know what that is. First, I'm going to define it. A modern first look is the idea that you and your fiance see each other for the first time before your wedding. This can be done in a completely private situation, where it's just the two of you in a room or a closed off area. This can be done in a mostly private situation where it's just the two of you, and then your photographer, me, takes a picture of you from a little bit of distance, capturing the candid moments of reaction and all of that for you to have treasured forever. Or this can be a public situation where you have your bridal party with you or your parents with you, whatever feels right to you in that moment for that experience of seeing each other for the first time. All right, so that is what the definition or description of what a modern first look is. Why would someone choose this? Well, one, they could just be like, hey, I don't like traditions. That could be an option. But honestly, I think most people choose it because of the things that it gains you. And I'm going to walk through what those are. So first off, it gains you intimacy. I'm going to go through what that means and why I say it that way. For me, and for some other people who are like me, having that big reveal moment where you see each other for the first time in front of everybody, I don't feel comfortable showing my emotions in that way. I don't feel free to just react. I'm just not that kind of person. I don't, that isn't how I feel. So for me, I chose to have a first look for the intimacy of it. I chose to have a first look because I wanted to have that moment to myself and to see and be free to just be me and not have to think about other people or even be aware of other people in that moment. So it gains you the intimacy there. It also gains you, and this is another reason why I chose it, more time with your spouse-to-be. If you do a first look, instead of spending so much of the day of your getting ready, all of this process not together, you get to have so much more time with the person you want to spend forever with. So that can be a huge positive for people, especially if you have anxiety, because I can tell you bride after bride after bride in my process and what I've seen is a lot of the times they have all of this angst and they don't feel like they can eat and all of the, like just so much anxiety before the wedding. And the person who usually calms them is the person that they aren't seeing. But most all of them, if they did a first look, the peace, like the release of anxiety that hit afterwards, it is a thing that I advocate for, if only for your benefit. All right, so that is another thing that's gained, is the time you can get. On top of that, you get more party. And what do I mean by that? It's every wedding, if you do a more traditional first look, after you get the ceremony, you have this chunk of time after the ceremony where you have all of your guests go to your reception, but you have to stay and take pictures. And so there's a time period at your reception where you have to have games for your guests, or you have to have entertainment for your guests, or they're just eating cocktail hour and chit-chatting. But all this time where you could be with the people that you've invited to celebrate this day with you, you're instead having to take pictures during that time. So if you do a modern first look, you can take almost every picture, if not all your pictures, before that ceremony, so that when you finished, you can literally just walk into your reception with everybody else, or right afterwards where you get announced. But there's not this time gap that you have with a traditional wedding. And the last is you get more pictures. Okay, let me explain why. Because it's the same amount of time, basically, whether you have the time frame before the wedding or after the wedding. But it streamlines the process. So if you do a traditional first look, where you have the big reveal at the wedding, before the ceremony itself, you often will take pictures with one of the bridal party over here and part of the bridal party over there, but you don't have all the bridal party together. So you have all the posing of this group of people and all the posing of this group of people, but not at the same time, not in the same place. And then after the ceremony, you have to take those two groups of people and put them together and create another set of posing and another set of pictures. Versus if you do a modern first look, you can do all of those pictures at the same time and streamline through all of it. So it takes less time and you get more pictures and more poses and more locations. So you can have more pictures because you have the time to rearrange and it's streamlined. It also creates an environment where you don't ever have the people who are distracted by the guests after the ceremony. Let's be serious. Almost every wedding, there's somebody who goes missing for a couple minutes, if nothing else. And it is remarkable the amount of time that will take out of your timeline for pictures waiting for that person, waiting for Uncle Samson or whatever, or, Aunt whatever. The time frame that it takes to locate that person and bring them back in because they got distracted by talking to somebody who they love, and that's great, but it's not the moment for it. But that time frame of distraction of guests or the guests trying to greet the couple in question, like any number of those things, it takes away from your time frame of getting pictures. So I find that almost every one of my couples that chooses a first look gets about 30% more photos than someone who doesn't. So those are all reasons why someone would choose a modern first look. What are some reasons you wouldn't? You might be a person who tradition is just super important to you. You might be a person who has looked forward to that big reveal all of your life. You know you. And this is a very personal choice. So as much as there might be logistical reasons of why I can say and advocate for this, you know yourself and you know what's fitting for you. So this may or may not be fitting for you. The gains of a traditional first look go back to the reasons why you wouldn't want a modern first look. If you prefer having the tradition, if you prefer that moment of big reveal, if you have had this as a thing that you think on and dream on and want, you know you. You need to choose what is best for you, even if it's not best logistically, because this wedding is about you two as a couple. It is about what is important and what speaks to both of you. And that might be traditions, and that might be the big reveal, and that might be just whatever you need it to be. I hope that this information has given you some food for thought, some things to consider and to weigh with yourself and to feel solidified. And if you are one of those people who loves the tradition and wants that, or if you're one of those people who didn't know what a modern first look is and now you do, and now it's something to consider, or for someone who was considering it and now is like, man, that's a lot of logistical gain. That's pretty awesome. Or if you simply just wanted to hear somebody ramble on about weddings, any number of the things. I hope that this has blessed you in some way. And if nothing else, I'm glad to be able to wish you a wonderful day. Thanks for listening in.